Derek, what are you doing?
Hot seat. ACDA in a hot seat. I don't even have to open this envelope. I know that's what we're here today for. Welcome everybody to ACDA in the hot seat. We are going to be greetings and good afternoon. My name's Garrett Howe. I'm not even with it here. Look, I'm just winging it right off the bat. Greetings and good afternoon, Howe. I'm excited today. We've got a great group. We've already been cutting up here before we got online, so they've got. I'm already in the moon with my coffee. But we're going to talk about what we just learned at ACDA conference. We all had a wonderful week in Anaheim, California. Beautiful Anaheim, California. Had some great weather, good activities, a wonderful conference, and I'm grateful to be home, but I'm also glad that we were there and got to visit with one another and see one another and learn a lot. And just for those who may not be familiar, who are on the call today or tuning in, the American Commodity Distribution Association is a nonprofit professional trade association devoted to improving the USDA's food distribution program. ACDA is comprised of many stakeholders all working together to strengthen and maintain the integrity of the USDA foods supply chain. Our mission is to strengthen the impact of domestic USDA foods programs, and our vision is working together to nourish the nation. Before we get too far into things, I want to point out the chat feature where you can enter questions, comments, all of which are going to be monitored by ACDA staff and myself. So please keep it nice. You know, we don't need any rogue comment. No, I'm just kidding. You guys share with well, I'm being silly. I apologize for that in advance, but I'm not changing for anything. So I'd really like you to enter your comments on your own experience in conference, mainly there, as well as questions, and that you had the opportunity, or if you had the opportunity to attend in Anaheim. So let's start with some introductions. Again, my name is Gary Cowan with the state of Kentucky. I work with USDA Foods in schools. Work with we have a team there that handles all of our reviews and they handle all of program operations over there. So I've been doing that. I've been in Kentucky handling USDA Foods in schools since 2009. So a couple of weeks or so under my belt doing that. And from that, I'm going to move on to Ken Simcox. Ken, why don't you tell us about your district and what you do over there?
Sure. I'm Ken Simcox. I'm an assistant supervisor with Washington County Public Schools, a school system in the state of Maryland. We have 46 schools, 22,000 kids, and I'm finishing my 28th year in school nutrition. So we're an end user. We love commodities. We love the partners that we get to interact with at ACDA. You know, everybody's at the table. Starting with USDA down to the state agencies, the manufacturers, distributors. I mean, I talked with people that are trying to get into commodity foods, and it was a great conference.
All right, thank you so much, Ken. We also have from JTM, Ms. Carol Erb.
Thank you, Garrick.
Why don't you tell us about your industry membership, please?
All right. My name is Carol Erb. I'm the Senior Director of Education Sales at JTM Food Group. We're located in beautiful Harrison, Ohio. But I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to go to Anaheim for this year's conference. I had a great time, just as Ken pointed out. It was a great conference. I enjoyed it a great deal. Garrick's already alluded to the fact that I am an industry member. And when you look at our membership categories, actually, we just changed our bylaws relative to the membership categories. But when you look at the subcategories, industry refers to the fact that we are for-profit organizations. And in my case, I'm a further processor making end items for our school districts across the country, utilizing beef, pork, cheese, turkey, and in some places, tomato paste. And that's all I have to say for right now, Garrick.
All right. Thank you, Carol. And we also have Robin Bowman. Robin, would you introduce yourself? Tell us who you're with and what you do.
Yep. My name is Robin Bowman. I'm the VP of K-12 for Core Food Service. So I am a broker. I've been in the industry a lot longer than I want to say, but 25 plus years. And I've been a member of ACDA for quite a few years. I enjoyed the conference. I thought it was very well planned. I thought that things were moved smoothly. I was lucky enough to be a mentor this year. So I thought that was really neat because I stayed connected with the 3 people that I was mentoring just throughout the conference, texting, where are you sitting, whatever. So thought it was good. And I'm sorry I don't have any visual. Had some IT problems here. So it's either hear me or see me. There's no both. So anyway, thanks for participating today.
Thanks, Robin. She's Elvis. She's Viva Satellite, or via satellite. Wow. Carol, are you sure that you didn't hire the wrong guy for this gig moving forward?
I know I didn't. You're doing awesome. What's our first question?
Well, my first question is actually, I'm already gonna break from script here, and because Robin actually brought a topic up that I feel like I would like to go ahead and delve into really quickly. She mentioned she was a mentor this year, and as we were talking a few minutes before we came online here, the Carol, you and I and Robin, we've all had the opportunity to do that. Ken, I can't remember. Did you say you had an opportunity to do that yet?
I did not.
Well, but a few of us here had an opportunity to be a mentor. Robin, why don't you expound a little bit more on that mentor program with the conference?
Yeah, what I got was an email to see if I wanted to participate, and I did. And then I guess it was about a week ahead of conference, I got 3 names of 3 first timers. And so what I did was I reached out to them. I let them know that they were, going to be part of my little mentor thing, and that could we connect and, talk with each other. And we did some emails and things back and forth prior to going to conference. And then when we got to conference, we connected and we sat together each day. I asked them, do you have any questions? Is there anything I can do for you? Very experienced people. So I was learning from them. So that's what I thought was kind of cool. I was their mentor, but yet I was learning what they do in their districts and then their schools. So I thought that was or their state. I had a state person. So I thought that was really kind of flipping the coin there. So, I encourage anybody on the call, if you know of a first timer coming, which I hope we have more first timers, then, let's get them hooked up with a mentor. I felt like it was useful for me. I hope the 3 mentees that I had found it helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Carol, you want to add anything about the mentor program?
I have a question. So Robin, how many mentees did you have? And it sounds like they weren't all of the same stakeholder group.
Nope, they weren't, Carol. I had 3. One was from the state of Alabama. One was from the Washington, and one was from Texas, and they did different roles at the state. And then I connected with a couple of first timers that were from the state of Virginia that I live in. I'm sorry. And so I connected with them because, you always like to see a face that or, you live here, and they were coming in first timers too. So, but I didn't check on them every day and send them text messages. I think at some point in time it kind of got, like I said, they taught me things. So I think asking them, do they need anything from me was for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they'll go next year again?
I hope so. I don't know. I can't tell who's on the call, but I know I'll text them or email them and ask them if they're planning to attend next year. It's funny. I just got off a phone call with one of my my commodity analysts, and she and I are already talking about what we're going to do ahead of back to next year. And we just left conference. So
Great.
We're going.
That's wonderful. Hey, I don't know if they're watching either, but I do have the feed pulled up, and our audience could take us in a street fight. So we're outnumbered at the moment. We're looking good on audience worldwide. We're coming for Jimmy Fallon on our show. No, I kid. Moving on. So thank you, Robin. I appreciate the insight on that. I've mentioned to them that I'd done the mentor program several years ago, and it's very interesting to see how that program's evolved over the years. Constantly making improvements to things as we go within the whole organization, not just that program, but so it's super great to hear about that. Probably time for me to throw my hat back in the ring in that part of it too. So let's move on. The bigger question: why did you decide to attend this conference? Carol, let's start with you. What was your decision making process?
This is a great question. For me personally, I can't imagine not attending this conference. This is my favorite conference of the year. And in the role in which I play in my organization, I attend a lot of meetings, events, and conferences throughout the year. What I love about the ACDA event is that it is not a selling show. It is not a food show. It is a learning event. From the minute the plane hits the ground until the minute we take off in the air, I feel like it is constantly about learning. And the mission and vision of ACDA, to nourish the nation and to work collaboratively, all about USDA foods, I just feel like it really is lived at this conference, if that makes sense. And every stakeholder is super important, and you learn so much just by having the interaction and the conversations with the individuals that you have the opportunity to do so at the conference. So I guess I didn't really answer your question, why did I attend? Because I went in the opposite direction. I can't imagine not attending.
That's a better answer than the question I asked. I agree. It is. It's when you're there at ACDA, you are there to be at ACDA. You're not trying to worry about 15 other things that you've got going on per se. We've all got things going on, back at the old workstation that we may have to tend to, but overall, that's what we're able to focus on, is the USDA foods component of our work. And it's very nice and refreshing to have a meeting like that. Ken, how about you?
So this was my either fourth or fifth ACDA that I've been to. And I have to agree with Carol. It is my most favorite thing that I get to go to. For a recipient agency, a school system, the Wednesday morning session that we have a breakfast with the USDA folks, and to be able to ask questions direct and get answers to the questions that we're asking is just unbelievable. But, there are a lot of choices. There are a lot of options out there for conventions and a lot of things you can spend your time with. But as I tried to, when I spoke at the pre-con session and talked about, the commodities, the value of the commodities is dollars to us. It is real dollars in your budget. For the cost of sending people to the convention, to ensure that we're getting the maximum value out of the dollars. We're nonprofit. We're trying to provide the best meal we can at the lowest possible price. And in today's world, to be able to offer a lunch for less than $3 is pretty darn hard. You can't go to McDonald's and buy a single cheeseburger, French fries, and a drink for that anymore. But yet we are able to provide, a reimbursable, nutritious, satisfying meal using fresh fruits and vegetables from DOD, using center of the plate entrees, using net off invoiced or fee for service or some of the other pass-through values. Honestly, there's not a single meal that I serve, breakfast, lunch, supper, that don't have commodities in it. It's the only way that we can prepare meals and serve meals for the price that we are, and still try to be nonprofit with that, no money in the bank, but have some money in the bank to pay all of our bills.
Yeah. So very true. Every penny counts.
Every penny counts. And I'll tell you, I was a speaker for that the pre-com, the USDA 101, the 4-hour course. And I don't think I've ever been so excited to see a room that was overflowing. I mean, we probably moved in as many chairs from the next room into that room, and to see the people taking notes, paying attention for 4 hours. 4 hours they sat still, asked questions, paid attention, took notes. It was the way to kick off a convention, without a doubt.
Love it. I love it. Ken, put a pin on that. We are coming to that topic soon. I love it. I'm glad you're really excited about that, because that's definitely on the list. I want to touch base with Robin again. Robin, what's kind of your decision maker on coming to this conference?
Well, for me, it's because our company further processes and we manage those pounds, and we work with our manufacturers, and I work with the USDA. It's just to me, it's a fact gathering conference, much like what Carol said. And, it's nice to get in there in a room and sometimes you're in a room and there's a multiple group of people in there. They all seem to be on the same page, but it's because we're all dealing with the same issues. And so as we deal with these issues, it's nice to hear somebody else say, well, I do this, or I don't do it that way, I do it this way. And I've never come away from a conference where I didn't learn something. And so this time, it's the same thing. I mean, I learned different things from different people that weren't even in a session of mine, but yet contributed so much to my session, and wasn't even a speaker in the session. So, those are the types of things that, to me, I find invaluable, because as we all sit in our homes or wherever we are working, we don't get to connect and communicate with each other like that. And so I agree with Ken. I think it's, being there, being in person, talking about things live, face to face is just, it's needed. And I think it was a great conference.
I agree 100%. 100%. Sometimes, all the sessions are wonderful and amazing, and even that, but it's like you said, on top of that, sometimes you learn the most from not sessions too. The meetings before and after the meetings, or the meetings in the hallways, those are also super valuable too. I'm with Carol. I couldn't imagine not going to ACTA. I've not gone to 2 ACTAs in my career with KDA, and I'm pine about it. I should have went to Austin. I didn't, and I should have. And I should have went to Costa Mesa. I didn't, and I should have. So if you get a chance and you're given the option, don't pass it up. I definitely have to put that out there on my side. Ken, coming back to that pre-con, listen, packed house, full room, standing room only. I play music, you dream about that, and then you go up behind the podium. Tell me about it.
Well, it's definitely a little overwhelming when you have 200 people staring down at you. And but like I said, they were a great group of people. It was obvious from the get-go that people came to learn. They came to figure out what they didn't know, what they don't know, and how to get the questions answered that they really wanted answered. So I think I was still getting questions from different parts that people gave on Tuesday, a couple days after that Sunday morning presentation. But no, it is so good when people come together and learn from each other and are open to have conversations. And, part of that is admitting what we don't know. And I may have 28 years experience in the foods in school of nutrition, but that doesn't make me an expert in everything. So you really have to, and let's be honest, commodities is not necessarily an easy process to comprehend. It is, sometimes there's too much information, there's too many different ways that I can use my money, and until you actually understand why all the different ways are there, and why you need them and why some people are able to use one particular version versus another version of the same program. So no, it was great to see. People were in fantastic moods. Even the people standing in the corner that had 16 people squished up against them. I
have
know.
a question.
Uh-huh.
At the USDA 101, you do a lot of processing, but did they have sections of that time devoted to DoD direct delivery and also to our household friends, or I shouldn't say household, but community feeding?
So it was great. There were 8 speakers that spoke. So we had a lot of experts on the panel. My part of that was really easy. I came to talk about, as a recipient agency, as a school system, what's the best, what do I use and how do I make it work for me? And understanding that school systems are so different. There, I have 20,000 kids. To some people, that sounds frightening. In the state of Maryland, I'm tiny. I'm surrounded by, 4 of the top biggest school systems in the country. So I'm a little boy in the state of Maryland. Clearly, everybody came together. It doesn't matter what size you are, just trying to understand what's the best way to spend my money and what's the best return on that money that I get for my own operation. And but to have folks from state agencies and industry and have all those players at the table at the same time. So, the folks that spoke before me really laid the groundwork for me to be able to come in and say, yeah, I'm able to take advantage of this. I'm able to take advantage of this. I'm able to take advantage of this. And here's some of the reasons why that it works for me. You have to figure that out on your own. And, these are those conversations that can continue over breakfast or lunch or dinner or as you're seeing, as somebody just said, it's the meetings before the meetings and after the meetings that you're able to talk different scenarios. And, I've tried this. Have you ever tried that? Have you tried this? No, maybe it's something I really need to think about. So coming home from the conference, I mean, your mind is circling and you're coming up with all these ifs, ands, and buts, and plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. So speaker, not speaker, participant, we all leave and we all come up with these great ideas. And if not, and the other thing that we also leave is with business cards and like, hey, I'm going to call, I'm picking up the phone because now I can call Chicago or I can call LA schools and say, hey, I'm so glad to have met you. Now I'm gonna milk you for all the information and all the experience you have so that my operation gets better.
Absolutely. That's it. When we share with our team and our state, our districts as well, that, it's a multi-year process, learning USDA foods and what's going to work for your district. But the main thing to take home is that you want to work on what's going to work for your district, what's going to work for your state.
Hey, Garrett, the other thing that I think is great as a recipient agency being there is you realize what a partnership this is. Mm-hmm. I don't get commodities without industry. Industry doesn't sell me commodities, and I don't get the commodities without distribution. Mm-hmm. Yep. We need the support of the state agencies to open up the catalogs and get the food that we particularly want, and then of course the USDA folks with developing their own USDA foods and making sure that the program works for everybody. So there's so many places that the system could break down and be able to conversate and be able to talk to all the different components and have us all at the table at the exact same time. It's just, there's no other convention like it. There's no other meeting that will put me in the same table with the people that I can sit down with and talk to.
Yep. We had 900 people at a conference, and our job and our sole focus was how to turn entitlement into food on a plate. So that's wonderful. So I'm going to actually move us down to the next topic that I was wanting to touch on from each of you was, what was the best session you attended? Now, I asked that question. That's wide open. It can be the one you found most informative, the one that was most entertaining. Jose Zumba class, because if we don't, we would be remiss to not mention that. So we'll start with Carol. Why don't we start with you on that question? What was your favorite or best class? That's open to your interpretation.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a couple of answers to this question. The first one that comes to mind is, Garrick, you were honored and had the opportunity to actually sing the national anthem. And it was phenomenal. It was outstanding. I loved it. And maybe it's just because I knew the person on the stage singing it. I don't know what it was, but for me, that was one of the best moments of the conference. Okay, that aside, I want to give a shout out to track leaders. So I was not on the planning committee this year, but having been on the planning committee in the past, I know a little bit about how the conference comes together. And for ACDA, they have different tracks, and they have, I think it's 7 sessions per track. So when you're a track leader, and in this particular case, I'm talking about the co-leaders of the processing or the industry track, and that is Donetta Miller with Rich Chicks and Alethea Sheets with Land O'Lakes. Those 2 women worked tirelessly to put together great, informative sessions that were in this particular industry track. Well, they had a session on Tuesday that was called a listening session with USDA. Questions were submitted a month in advance. USDA reviewed the questions, and then they came to the conference with answers to those specific questions. The second day, though, is the best favorite session, because the second day we sat at a table with other industry partners, and actually I had some brokers at my table also, and we began talking about what we learned from the previous day's session. And I think just having that time to sit and talk with some other industry partners. I was at a table with some folks who handle fruit, and I don't do fruit. So it was interesting to hear their take and perspective on it. And again, listening to the brokers who were at the table and some of the comments that they came forward of what they got out of that session. It just was really a valuable hour to 45 minutes to just sit and talk as partners in this program about what you just heard. So that was really great. And of course, part of that session was to write down ideas for improvement. You know, how do we improve USDA foods? All of the comments were taken by a scribe at each table, and they were handed back in to the moderator for the session. And I know Alethea and Donetta are reviewing those notes, and they'll do with the notes that which is appropriate. So that was one of my favorite sessions. Mm-hmm. The other one I want to comment on was the town hall session that was held on, I think it was Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday late in the day. So this was at 3:45. And they called it a town hall, which was a tiny bit confusing to me because I didn't have a clue where the conversation was going to go. But they had on the stage several different panelists from different stakeholder groups. And one of the topics they brought up was this idea of cashing out your USDA foods. And Roger Shemrai, of course, I can't quote him verbatim, but what I got out of that session was watch what you wish for. It may sound like a great idea. It may sound like making things easier from a recipient agency's perspective. But what I learned is that if that were to happen, then it just becomes a line item on a budget. And it's so much easier to completely erase it. it's so much easier to reduce the amount of funds for those programs, but it's much harder to get rid of an entire program. And so to me, it was an extremely valuable conversation that we were able to listen in on. Those were my two favorite sessions.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Robin? What was your favorite session?
I had quite a few. I think the one Carol's talking about, I found very, very informative, and with Roger, I thought that was a really good one. And then there was one, I don't even remember the title of it. It had a Colorado person, and it had the gentleman from Wild Mike's, and it was very conversational. And what I find in situations like that is you pick up nuggets of information from each one of those people when they talk about something going on in their district. And it was a big district and a small district. And, you know, I thought that was really good. I mean, my session that, and I wasn't in a session, but my breakout was very, very robust. And I mean, we ran out of time and didn't get to all the questions. Which is, you know, one of the reasons when I came back, I'm like feverishly, I took the notes of the questions that I couldn't get to answer and sent them, and then sent the information on to the people via the WOVA app. So I don't know if everybody's still using that, but some of the questions I could answer, but some of them I had to go to ACDA and to Carol and say, where do I go to get this information? So Carol was helpful and got that information to me, but I like the more conversational ones. You know, even the breakfasts, you're sitting there and you're sitting next to somebody you don't know, and you end up having a conversation about, you know, how many kids you have and what you do when you're not working. And that's just all very, to me, very valuable in the long run.
Yep, absolutely. I was, Kim, we're going to throw to you here in just a second, but I wanted to mention that I went to a session, and I sat in the back row. I for some reason was paranoid that somebody was going to call and need something back in Kentucky. I would have to hop out. So I didn't want to make a huge scene to get out. So I was in the back, and I just happened to sit down, and it was me and Mike Tack and Mike Burkmeyer, and there was like 5 or 6 of us, and I was like, we're gonna get thrown out of this session. Mike Spence, I was like, we're all gonna get thrown out of here. We behaved very well, but it's a great session. And Cliff was talking about some modernization, you know, how we modernized back the further processing component, and we're, you know, to continue that process. But it was a wonderful session, and it was wonderful not only because the content was great, but I was sitting around these guys and gals that I'd met over the years at ACDA, and that work. So it just very nice to do that in that way. Ken, what was your favorite session that you got to go to?
Well, I can't believe that I'm the last person on this question and the only person to say, oh my goodness, Jose. Did it take 5 hours to paint him up? And how in the world did he walk in those boots? Or
yes,
I mean, what he's done
is a man of endless skills.
what he has done with Zumba at ACDA and the money raised for these food banks, you know, got to start with that. That is just phenomenal.
Over $15,000.
Awesome. I already mentioned, you know, one of my favorite ones is a USDA breakfast just with RAs. We feel like it's a very intimate setting, small groups, small room, USDA folks spread all throughout the room and just get those answers. The other one that I got to give a kudos to, Roger, the legislative updates. I never miss an opportunity to listen to him talk, and he may have multiple sessions, and it seems like he's got the description is the same, but as a recipient agency, you've got to hit every session that this man talks. He is so knowledgeable and breaks down everything into a format that even I can understand. So kudos. And then, you know, funny for me, one of my favorite other sessions was something that had nothing to do with recipient agencies. I went to the one on keeping it moving, the complex role of distributors, because I really want to learn more about what are the problems that my partners are dealing with, so that I can be a better partner to my distributors and I can be a better partner to my manufacturers. So those are my three.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Actually, I'm really glad you brought up that and Carol had alluded to it, and Robin as well earlier. You mentioned Roger's update, and of course, you know, you already spoke to that. I wanted to bring that up and that question back around. Robin, when we talk about Roger's updated, Ken mentioned, you know, the description seems the same every year, but the description's set up in a very deliberate way, because what Roger has to talk about is going to change every time he gets behind the podium. So it's I don't want to say it's generic, but it's broad enough that, you know, we don't want to get into the specifics because we don't know what those specifics are going to be from week to week even. So as they set that up. But Robin, what was it you took away from Roger's legislative updates that were particularly helpful that you feel?
Well, I think the one, Carol, or I don't know if it maybe was Ken, about cashing out. I thought that was probably one of the most poignant comments that he made. I've never sat with Roger where I didn't learn something. I agree with you all on that. I'm trying to think. There was something he said in one of his updates. I'd have to go back and I'd have to go on my WOVA app and look. And since I'm having to work on my cell phone, I don't think I want to try to multitask that much. But with Roger, I felt like, you know, the people that I was sitting around had not heard some of those things. So I thought that was very interesting, their take on listening to Roger. Because you and I, or Carol and I, or whatever, we kind of get to talk to Roger and listen to Roger. Think about all the people that were there that had never listened to Roger, probably felt like they were being watered down with a fire hydrant because there's so much information there. But once you listen to Roger, he really does break it down into a very simplistic, so you understand what he's saying. And that to me, that's a gift that Roger has that I don't have it. He's good at that. So
same. Carol, how about you?
There's a couple of things that come to mind when we're talking about Roger Shemrai. The first thing that comes to mind is on the ACDA website, www.commodityfoods.org, you have the opportunity to subscribe. And as an ACDA member, you definitely want to do that because it's politics. And it changes a lot, and things can change on a dime. And when Roger sends information to the ACDA board, if you subscribe on the ACDA website, you get that data the very next morning. You get that information the next morning. And, you know, when you think about it, it is political. It's all about the money. What's happening with the monies that we all pay as American tax in tax dollars, and how that money is going to support the mission and vision of ACDA, how that money is going to help people like Ken run fiscally sound programs. And, you know, again, everything that Roger delivers in terms of information, it can be overwhelming. It can be confusing. However, the more you hear it and the more it comes to you, it starts to make some dots connect, and it makes sense, and it helps you, whether you are an industry member and partner, or you're the recipient agency, or at the state agency, or you're working at the local food bank. All of this information is critical for us in the work that we're currently doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I 100% agree. And working with Roger and Carol and Robin on the board in the past, and planning committees and all kinds of things, and Ken and I have known each other for years through ACDA. You know, getting to be around Roger is a wealth of information, and once that sinks in for you, it's just like as soon as he starts talking, my mouth shuts and my ears open up, and so it's hard for me to have conversations with Roger because I want to listen to him and I don't want to talk. I just want to listen. So, I feel like in my 40 years, that's one thing that I've learned that was a good, when Roger's talking, shut the hell up and listen, Garrick. So, but thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's wonderful. And speaking of Roger, that triggers me to further think that we did some voting at the ACTA conference this past year. We made some updates and changes to the bylaws.
Mhm.
You can go check those out. We voted, they did pass by the membership as a part of that vote. And we also voted for our new board members, and we're not going to go through each individual one of those. We are going to have an opportunity to meet our board members in a future in the hot seat. So we'll do that. But I do want to take a really quick moment to just tell you who our executive board members are for ACTA. Kyle Jordan from Florida, Department of Agriculture. He is our president. Deborah Cameron from Colorado, Department of Human Services, is our vice president, and our immediate past president is Noel Sanchez from New Mexico Human Services Department. Our secretary is Jackie Cantu from Texas Department of Agriculture. Sorry, and then treasurer is Roxanne Greenlee from the Wyoming Department of Education. So all these people I've known, all these people I've worked with, myself, Carol's the same. Robin, we've all had opportunity to work with these folks through the years. They're wonderful, wonderful people, and they're definitely going to be there for you. So don't hesitate to reach out to them and reach out to your other board members. And you can check out commodityfoods.org for more information on who your board members are and serving and things like that. So that being said, for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and kind of move us into a wrap up phase here. But is there anything else that any of you want to share as a parting comment or thought before we move into a proper wrap up here? Carol.
We've mentioned the app several times, and this year ACTA staff elected to go with the Hoover app, and I felt it to be very user friendly. I did want to mention that I was able to download a couple of the slide decks from the Hoover app, and I'm going to review the slides again and share them with my team here. I just think it's an incredible resource for us. Whether you're attending the ACTA conference in the future or other conferences, I'm finding more and more every conference has an app. And while I was a little hesitant and resistant to that idea at first, I'm finding that getting into the app for your scheduling prior to arriving on the scene, and then also being there at the conference and utilizing that app for the question and answer session during the sessions was very valuable. So I just wanted to give a big thumbs up to the Hoover app.
Great. That's the Hoover app, WHOVA. And you probably may have some information on it, especially if you did attend conference. You got some information on the app if you want to go check that out. It's still active. There's still things in there you can participate in from our conference that we just had in Anaheim. So, Ken, what about you? Any parting thoughts at all? Anybody else?
I think it's the one thing that we just need to continue to encourage recipient agencies, the end user, to get more and more and more. I definitely think hopefully there's some folks watching us today that have not been to a convention yet and may need some advice or to how to sell this, that this is a worthwhile thing. But this conference is going to allow you to spend your money better, which means you have the money to come to the conference.
There you go.
Great. Thank
Well
you.
said.
Also, well put. Well said. Robin, how about you? Any parting thought?
I think about the conference, and I always enjoy listening to Katie. And after her session was over, I immediately met her out in the hallway and said, may I use some of the comments that you had up at the end of her slide about, mixing the potion and changing the way you're thinking and that kind of stuff. I've already used some of her comments I used them in my session, but I also used them with my own team because with limited resources, we bring, 4 or 5 people. Well, I have a staff of, 40, 50 people. They can't all come. So I shared that because I always love the things that she has to say. And I did go and download the PowerPoints that pertained to my part of the business and what would be useful. I'm a big believer that knowledge is power. And if you can share anything with anybody, that you should. So those have been downloaded and sent to all of my directors on my side of the business to use as they see fit. So it's all about sharing what you learn.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And I wanted to go ahead and, for those who may be watching, if you want to know how to get involved in ACDA, I just want to encourage you to reach out to your industry or your section or your stakeholder group representative. Or if you just met somebody at ACDA, just ask them. We will get you directed to the appropriate person so you can get more involvement. We're always looking as an organization for help. There's lots of work to be done. There's lots of exciting work to be done. It's not just, humdrum, stare at a spreadsheet work. It's interesting stuff. You get to talk to a lot of interesting people. You find yourself in a lot of rooms, meeting people that I didn't realize that I would have met, an undersecretary of the United States Department of Agriculture today or whatever, so on and so forth. So please reach out to anybody, any contacts you have with ACDA, especially anybody on the board or your member representatives. They'll definitely be able to help you out, as well as any committee members or ACDA staff. Again, commodityfoods.org is the website. I want to finish up today. I want to thank each of you for your time, everybody watching, and all of you as guests, and for your input and for your insight on this conference. I think we all were there and enjoyed ourselves plenty and enjoy going. So please, by all means, thank you for participating today and throwing that out there. And I'm sure our audience is appreciative as well. And appreciate the work that you're doing on behalf of not only your individual agencies and companies, but for the members of ACDA too. These folks that are with us today serve on not just as members of ACDA, but on committees and everything else. So they're doing extra work here to help us as an organization. Our next ACDA in the Hot Seat event is scheduled to take place on May 16th at 4 p.m. So that is 2 weeks or so. Yeah, 2 weeks. That's right. I did the math quickly. And I'm a public school kid, by the way, so it works. 4 p.m. Eastern time. And Robin Bowman, you're going to be moderating the conversation on the future of bidding, and that's probably a smart move because old Garrick ain't so hot to try on the future of bidding. Our crystal balls are all broken here in Kentucky. I got this whole envelope thing down, but the crystal balls are out. Excited for that. If you have comments and suggestions for future events, send those to info@commodityfoods.org. That's info@commodityfoods.org. And thank you, everyone. Let's take care of each other, and enjoy the rest of the week. And let's do what we can to make sure that these USDA foods are on a plate and not a spreadsheet.
Amen.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Garrick. Bye, everybody.